everyone, thanks for joining me back on my channel. Today I'm going to be making a mermaid card using my MFT Mermazing stamp set. To start off, I'm taking some Bristol board card from Windsor and Newton, and I'm going to be using my Distress Oxide inks to create a nice sea sort of background. So first of all, I'm taking my Peacock feathers Oxide ink and I'm putting that onto a piece of acetate and then spraying it with a bit of water just to water that down, and then I'm sort of smushing it down onto the paper. The idea here is I'm just going to get a nice sort of fluid background with some really nice colours. I'm going to take my Salty Ocean Oxide ink and do the same over the top of that peacock feathers and out a bit wider. And I'm just using that acetate to sort of move my ink around and manipulate it. And just taking my heat gun to dry the layers in between. You do want to try and dry your layers before you go in with the next colour, otherwise they sort of mix together and can look a bit muddy. So now I'm taking some Wilted Violet, and again I'm drying that with my heat tool. And then next I go in with my Worn Lipstick and Lucky Clover Oxide inks, and I'm being quite careful because the green and the pink can start to look a little bit muddy and brown, which isn't what I'm going for. So I'm drying that with my heat gun, and then I'm spritzing it with some water with Perfect Pearls mixed in, and then just tapping on some water from a paintbrush just try and give some droplet effect, and then drying that up with a paper towel just to try and break that colour up a little bit. You probably won't see much of this background because I'm going to cover a lot of it up. I'm taping down that piece of smooshed background, and I'm taking my Mermaid's Tail background stamp from MFT, and I'm putting my Versamark ink all over that, being really generous, making sure I cover it all up, and then putting that face down onto my background that I've just created. Just pressing down really nicely. You want to get a really good impression. And then removing that tape so that I can then heat emboss it. So I've got some Papermania Holographic embossing powder, which is a really nice shimmery, glitzy embossing powder. I'm just coating that all over, and then you can see the mermaid's tail sort of take effect. So now I'm heat setting that, and it gives a really nice glittery look. And I did another one of those background stamps, but this time I just did it onto some plain white cardstock and used the same embossing powder. And I'm going to cut my plain piece with the mermaid's tail on into a rectangle from Lawn Fawn. This is the inside out stitch scallop rectangles, something like that. I'll list it all down below. Just sort of taking off any marks with one of my rubbers. My cutting plates are quite old. And I've also cut a hole using my Mama Elephant Union Square die set. And that's how I'm going to be using that ink smushed background piece. Trying to make it look a little bit like the sea. I'm applying some double-sided tape to that panel because I'm going to be covering that opening with some acetate. So here I am just measuring that up and cutting that out. And then I'll be applying that to that background, that sort of front panel piece, so that my sequins and glitter doesn't all fall out. So I'm just sort of measuring that up, making sure I'm happy with how it's looking. And I'm going to cover the back of that with foam tape, and I'm being really generous with that. Just putting a little bit of foam tape into the corners so that my sequins remain in that window panel. Taking my Embossing Buddy just to take away too much sticky. And now I'm just sort of putting in a selection of sequins. These ones are from Hobbycraft, and this sort of chunky glitter was actually from a garden centre at Christmas. but it's like a really nice iridescent glitter. And then these little pots of glitter are from a shop called The Works here in the UK, and I think I got 8 different pots of glitter for like £1. It's really good value. So I've got a blue, a purple and a pink, and I'm being really generous with those in my shaker pocket. And then I'm just going in with a bunch of clear sequins. I think these are 4mm ones, again just from my stash. So I'm removing that foam tape, being careful not to sort of move my card so that the sequins don't go flying, making sure my panel is up the right way because I want those mermaid tails to go a certain direction. And there we go, there's my shaker panel done. So now I'm moving on to my stamping of my images. Again, they're the MFT Mermazing Stamps, and they're so pretty. I've wanted them for a while, and I now do want the dies because I did fussy cut these out today, so they were a little bit fiddly. So yeah, on my wish list now are the dies for these. And there is a lot of colouring. I did experiment with some new colours, or new colour combinations. I show the colouring for one of the mermaids because otherwise the video would just be so long, but I will include in the description box below the colours for both mermaids. And if you head over to my blog, the information will be there too, and the link to that will be in the description box. now I'm going to move on to the gluing of my images onto my card. So I've fussy cut out all the little images and I'm gluing my mermaid onto her rock, and then I'm going to glue her down into that far right corner. I've added on my other mermaid, and now I'm adding some Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to their little starfishes in their hair, and I'm going to go over that with some glossy accents as well. I've also added some rose gold foil to their tails just to give a little bit of shimmer as well. Now gluing on my seashells, and I love these seashells. I think they're adorable. I did colour another pink one, but it kind of got lost somewhere in the crafting chaos. I'm just making sure they're stuck really well down. I'm also stuck on my little fish, and now I'm going to move on to my sentiment. So I've taken a piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to use my Embossing Buddy just to take away any static, and I'm going to stamp that out with some white pigment ink, and then use my white Nouveau embossing powder to create the sentiment and heat set that. And then I'm going to trim it down with my trimmer and just sort of give that a bit of an angled tail on the end, as well as cutting that out again with that scallop piece, just so it all fits nicely on the front of my card. I'm going to put a bit of double-sided tape on the back of that just to make sure it's securely fixed to the card, because sometimes with that embossing powder things lift up, and I want it to be sort of nice and flush because it did get a little bit warped with that embossing from the heat. So I'm removing the tape and then lining those scallops up. I'm going to put that on my card. And now I've just taken a piece of glittery paper. I cut the middles out to sort of reserve the paper because it's really expensive. And then I pop my piece down. I've covered that back piece with lots of double-sided tape. And there is my shaker card, very shimmery and sparkly, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I am just going to today show you how I finished off the card inside. So I took some ombre print from Hero Arts, used one of my stickers and also one of my stamps from Chunky Monkey Crafts to embellish the back, adding lots of more sparkle with my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, just giving that a few little glittery accents. And my card is finished, so I hope you enjoyed that today. Don't forget to give me a like, comment and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I am trying to upload videos once a week as much as I can, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you, bye.